Good day, beloved. I don't know about you where you're at, but it is absolutely gorgeous today. Actually, a little bit of cloud cover. I don't think we're going to get any rain. That'd feel pretty nice. It's been a good couple of weeks where it's been nice and hot where I'm at. Beautiful nonetheless. I wanted to take a second and talk about something that is more important to me than anything else in this life, and that's family. I wouldn't be half the man that I am if my wife didn't practically pull me out of my old life and give me something else to strive for all those years ago when we settled down. And my children have added so much into my life that isn't in any sort of monetary form. They give me purpose. I don't know what I would do without them. And it breaks my heart how many families I've seen break apart just since me and my wife have gotten together. I mean, we live in a culture where divorce is not out of the ordinary. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here saying that if you've gotten divorced, you're this terrible person. There's certainly a time and place for it. My wife jokes because one of the only pieces of advice that my parents, both of my parents gave her early on in our marriage is that divorce is a blessing in disguise. That rubbed her wrong for a long time. Because it's like, how are you telling your son's wife that divorce is a blessing in disguise? I guess my parents know me pretty well, huh? But I think it is far less often that divorce is a blessing, and I think it's more often a curse. And that's just from life experience. I've watched brothers-in-law separate. I've watched plenty of my friends. In fact, I think I can only count one friend that's actually been, gotten married and stayed married and started a family. I've got another friend that's been married for a while, but they don't have kids. They just do they've just got their dogs. So that you've taken out a lot of the difficulty right there. Not judging anybody, but it's not an apples to apples comparison when there's not children involved. There's so many more levels to it, and honestly, the Lord put us here, and I think that's a necessary part of life because of how much I've learned just from having children. I think it's a necessary part. We've got stuff to learn from being parents and stewarding children. It comes with its frustrations, but it comes with its abundance and joy, pride, confidence in seeing how a human mind forms from the very lowest levels and giving you a different perspective on how the human mind works. I feel like I have a better understanding of humanity. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I'm just saying that having children has added so much to my life and taught me so much about the world and about myself. There's things that I wouldn't have probably noticed about myself until all of a sudden I see one of my kids doing it, and it's like, oh, now we're not doing this. I better change this in myself, because if they're doing it, they're obviously picking it up from me, and that's something that was a blind spot. I wonder how many of these families we could have made a difference in if Christianity was a bigger part in their lives. Obviously, we have the right, at least in my country, they say we have the right in my country to believe what you want and follow what faith you want. Freedom of religion, right? But I'm to a point anymore where I know where some truth lies, and I'm gonna push it forward, and I'm going to support what I believe is true. And I believe that a successful marriage has God at the center of it. Can you not have a successful marriage without God? No, you can. But in my experience, and what I've actually seen with my own two eyes, is I've seen my marriage get 10 times better than it ever was when both me and my wife decided that we were going to put our focus on the Lord and put the Lord in front and in charge. I am not a person that likes to submit. I have left very many jobs because I didn't agree with how a boss was treating his customers or how the company was treating the employees. I have left good jobs because I was not willing to put up, and I did not think that the moral fortitude of management was up to snuff, and I've walked away because of that, and I've put myself in some bad situations. But that's why I started my own company, is so that I was in more control of things like that. That's a little bit of a tangent, but nonetheless, when I've put the Lord at the center of my marriage with my wife, we're both hand in hand on this decision, our lives have gotten better. You can ask me, you can ask my wife. We have talked about it multiple times. Our marriage has gotten better since we put God at the center of it. I have 4 verses that I'd like to share with you as a daily scripture today. We're going to be in Colossians chapter 3, verses 18 through 21. Wives, submit yourselves unto your husbands, as it is fit in the Lord. Husbands, love your wives, and be not bitter against them. Children, obey your parents in all things, for this is well-pleasing unto the Lord. Fathers, provoke not your children to anger, lest they should be discouraged. These are 4 very powerful verses if you're trying to build a strong family. Now, it takes a whole family to build a strong family. It doesn't just take the husband, it doesn't just take the wife. The children take a part in building the family. But if you're the father, you're the one that has to lead. How do you expect your wife to submit to you as a man if you're not somebody, or you're not doing things worth submitting to? I mentioned earlier about jobs that I've left because I did not believe that the boss had everybody's better interest in mind. I can't blame some wives for leaving. These flies are driving me nuts. I apologize. There are some marriages that I've watched break up, and I understand where both sides are coming from, why they split. Doesn't mean it couldn't have been solved. And now, seeing where they're at years later, they're still miserable. They're still single. It's very hard to watch people that you like and you care for struggle and be lonely. I don't like seeing it. I don't like seeing families break up. But we have answers as to why marriages don't work. I can point my finger at pretty much exactly why a lot of them did, and they all have their own different reasons. But one thing that I can see that is consistent through all of them, and there was a good stretch in my marriage that I was very much following those same lines. I'm not going to lie. The man was not a good leader. He did not set himself up in a position of the family to take charge. He was not in a position of authority to where the wife was willing to submit for various reasons. The Lord put you in charge of your family. If your wife doesn't make it to heaven, it's kind of on you a little bit. Everybody has their own free will. But you've got to be a leader that people want to follow the example of. I am very, very guilty of not falling into that category for a lot of years. I am very fortunate that I have a good, God-fearing woman and she loves this family just as much as I do, if not more. She's just a good-hearted woman, and I am damn lucky to have her. But the point still rings true. If you want to be a good Christian and you want to be a fisher of men and you want to learn or earn souls for the Lord, you're not going to force somebody into doing that. Nor should you. I mean, what are we? Muslim? I'm not forcing anybody to do anything. I will tell you about Christianity and I will hope that you'll listen. But I'm not going to force you. Not going to happen. I felt the same about my wife, and I've told her that many times. You know, when we were early in our marriage, she would do the women thing and try to play the little games of, oh, well, would you still love me, this, that, look. I don't play those games. I've told her plenty of times, you know what? If I'm not keeping you here, you don't want to be here, leave. I love you. I don't want you to go, but I'm not going to force you to be with me if you don't want to be with me. We both have to want this. I don't play my wife's little games. She learned that long ago, and I think we're better off because of it. Yeah, it makes you feel like a butthead when you're not playing the games, but I have to state my case. I love you very much. This is what I believe, this is where I'm at, and this is how it goes. Take it or leave it. We need to really take a step back as men, especially if you're a younger man and you've got a young family, or you're trying to start a family, or you're, you know, engaged. Take my advice. Don't ever try to change your wife into something. Try to be the best man that you can, so that you are setting an example that she is happy to follow. She will listen to you. My wife asks me for advice on things that she could easily figure out herself. She's not a stupid woman by any stretch of the imagination. She could figure a lot of this stuff out on her own. But we're married, and she wants my opinion. She asks my advice. She asks what I would do. She asks my thoughts on it. That right there is how you lead your wife in the direction that you feel is best for your family. But until you establish yourself as somebody worth following, your wife is not going to submit to anything that you want her to do. And a wife that does not submit to the husband's will is a very, very big issue for the success of a marriage. If you're trying to force that submission, you're in the wrong. How would you feel if the Lord was trying to force you into submission? Especially all of you that are maybe a little bit lukewarm in your Christianity. You know, when somebody is speaking very directly about Christian points and you may feel a little bit convicted, it's not the greatest feeling. And, you know, when you're feeling like that, you're not going to want to submit. The Lord wouldn't do that to you. And if a family is just a small microcosm of what God's big kingdom is, if you were your wife, would you submit to your will? Ask yourself that question, because that's what I had to ask myself. At some point I had to ask myself, would I submit to me? I have a hard time submitting in the first place. That was the biggest thing I had to wrap my mind around when I was trying to give my life to the Lord. Is wrap my mind around how to submit to somebody else's will aside from my own. Put yourself in your wife's shoes. Look at yourself as objectively as you possibly can and ask, would you submit to you? Think if you can answer that question, and the answer is no, you just got a couple of steps that are going to make your life abundantly better. Talk to the Lord. He'll show you. It's not going to feel good. but he'll show you what needs to be fixed. He did it for me. I've never gotten along so well with my wife. We've had a good marriage, but I get along so much better with her now, and I love her so much more now, and I loved her before. A lot. If you're not somebody worth submitting to, don't you expect your wife to submit to you. Especially in this world that we live in. These ladies have been raised without God in their heart, I'll tell you that. It is very hard to find a woman that has God in their heart. You can find them, they're out there. They're just not the ones drawing your attention with all the bright, flashy, shiny jewelry and bright colored hair and, you know, half their body showing because they don't have enough class to cover themselves up. They're out there. You can find them. If you've already got one, figure out what you need to do to submit, or to be worth submitting to. I think that's all about all I got for you today, beloved. Go ahead and ponder on these things, and if you have thoughts, if you have opinions, if you think I'm just the biggest dummy in the world, go ahead and leave it in the comments. I can take it. Have yourselves a good day, beloved. Keep them families together. Have a good day.